Hi, I'm Conor Svensson, founder and CEO of Web3 Labs, and this is your Week in Blockchain on Monday, the 19th of April 2021. Highlights in this week's issue include Coinbase's IPO, another rollercoaster week for cryptos, ConsenSys closing a major funding round, Binance continuing to grow their influence in DeFi, and Sotheby's big NFT sale. Coinbase this week, they went public. It wasn't in fact via an IPO, it was actually via a direct public offering. This basically meant that instead of investment bankers investing in the first set of shares and then actually selling them to the markets, Coinbase actually sold their shares directly on the market. It was a very successful listing. Their closing price for the stock was just shy of $330, which gave an implied valuation of just under 86 billion. The Binance exchange also came along and listed a Coinbase stock token shortly after this as well, to allow people on their platform to get exposure to tokens that track the price, much like they've done previously with Tesla. Big other beneficiaries of the Coinbase listing also include its 1,700 employees, who are all given 100 shares sort of right at the last minute, which was a nice windfall for them. And also the rapper Nas, who was actually one of the early investors alongside some of the more familiar names you see in this space, like Andreessen Horowitz and Union Square Ventures. With all of the activity that we saw happening here, there was also a lot of movement in the crypto markets too, with Bitcoin and Ethereum hitting all new all-time highs just before the Coinbase listing, with Bitcoin going up to just shy of 65,000 per Bitcoin and Ether over 2,500. However, there was a significant drop in the last few days as well, with Bitcoin's price dropping down to 52,000 and Ether 2,100. There's been some funny movements though with Dogecoin, which has continued its rapid ascent recently, where earlier on in the week it actually eclipsed Uniswap and Litecoin to become the 8th largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization, but now it's actually gone even further and is up at number 6. So the returns that we've seen with Dogecoin this year, it's up over 6,000% this year to date. Also, Mark Cuban's come along and said that his Dallas Mavericks basketball team is planning to hold Dogecoin on their balance sheet, one-upping Elon Musk with the Bitcoin on Tesla's balance sheet. Another really big piece of news this week was ConsenSys closing a $65 million funding round, which was backed by JP Morgan, MasterCard, and a number of others. So it's fascinating that this has actually happened now, because for a number of years ConsenSys have been investing very heavily in a number of different products and projects across the blockchain ecosystem, but getting this serious funding really is the signifier that they've now got a very clear strategy, that they've been able to get good institutional buy-in behind this. If you remember back to August last year, ConsenSys acquired JP Morgan's Quorum technology team and allegedly took an investment from JP Morgan, but there wasn't really much public information about this. But then also in October of last year, there was an announcement by ConsenSys and Protocol Labs, the creators of IPFS and the Filecoin platform, which is decentralized file storage platform, to actually be partnering together in terms of bringing decentralized file storage technologies and bridging the gap between IPFS and Filecoin and Ethereum. And so when you actually look at the people who are involved in this investment, you've got UBS and MasterCard. And another point too, we've seen that MasterCard have announced their own payments cryptocurrency technology, but then other investors included Protocol Labs as well and the Maker Foundation. And given that you have, obviously we mentioned earlier on, JP Morgan and others involved in this, there's clearly a focus on the actual DeFi angle here, and ConsenSys certainly believe very heavily in the opportunity that it presents here, especially when you've got some very well established players like UBS and MasterCard here, alongside some of the the pioneers in the decentralized landscapes like Protocol Labs. So it's no doubt setting them in a really good position to actually continue to grow and scale and continue to execute on their vision of building out the Ethereum ecosystem. So it's a really big news and significant milestone for the team there. We've also had MicroStrategy announce that it's now paying its board of directors in Bitcoin, but then also HSBC, the bankers, have come along and said that they won't support trading in MicroStrategy shares on their platform because HSBC has got no appetite for direct exposure to virtual currencies. This also took effect as well with the Coinbase listing earlier in the week as well, and the HSBC doesn't allow their clients to actually hold it via their platforms either. So although this is legislation that's kind of been in place for a number of years, since going back to 2018 with HSBC, they're certainly taking a far more conservative stance about cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency exposure than we're seeing with a lot of the other banks that are out there that are looking to find ways to leverage from it. Grayscale have also added another $1 billion to their portfolio of assets that they actually hold. So it's taking their overall assets under management to over 50 billion now. So now they've expanded to include Litecoin, Stellar, Zcash and Bitcoin Cash. Time has also joined, followed suit after Tesla announced that they were keeping Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Time magazine now plans to as well. They've also announced a partnership with Grayscale, where they're going to be working together on a new video series that's going to come in the summer explaining the crypto space. The Swiss insurer AXA too now allows its customers to actually pay in Bitcoin. However, they're not planning to actually hold these Bitcoin on their balance sheet. When customers pay in Bitcoin, it goes to a broker, Bitcoin Swiss, who will then actually convert them into Swiss francs for AXA. But AXA have really embraced this because they had feedback from a significant number of customers who were surveyed that they were interested in cryptocurrencies, so they thought they'd experiment and see if it would change things if they accepted Bitcoin. In Turkey, the Turkey's central bank has actually banned the use of cryptocurrencies for payments, so it's a significant blow to those individuals and companies actually working on these services. So it hasn't actually banned the holding of cryptocurrencies, but you're not actually allowed to use them for payments anymore. On the Ethereum network, we're now up to having almost $9 billion worth of ETHs staked on the ETH2 network. And also we saw the Berlin hard fork go live this week, which really lays the foundations for reducing the very high gas fees, which we've discussed in previous editions on the Ethereum network. So the EIP 1559, which is the somewhat controversial between miners versus the broader Ethereum community, supports this. It's now sort of core plumbing is in place, so to speak, that come July, as long as they can get the general support there, it'll be able to go live as planned. With the hard fork though, there were some issues with the Open Ethereum client, which is one of the many different Ethereum clients that's used, and this actually impacted Coinbase, Ledger and other crypto services. They basically stopped people being able to withdraw Ether during this period just as a safety measure. We've also seen Ticketmaster, the owner of Live Nation, partnering with a blockchain ticketing firm, a subsidiary which has partnered with a ticketing service called FanDragon Technologies to use Tix2Me, which is a blockchain-based digital entertainment wallet. And Live Nation is the owner of Ticketmaster. Behind the scenes, Live Nation have been using Ethereum, but they'd hit issues with the transaction fees being prohibitively expensive for a ticketing application. So they made use of what is called the Aventus network, which is a layer 2 scaling technology that runs on top of Ethereum. ATHs Systems is the company that created this. In the first stage of this partnership, it will basically enable thousands of Live Nation France tickets to be purchased through the platform, and they will be processed through this underlying Aventus network as a combination of fungible and non-fungible tokens. There isn't anything yet about secondary market trading. Of course, one of the key issues that a lot of ticketing providers have is the inability to actually prevent resales, but also and also fraudulent tickets. So no doubt that is going to be factoring in, but there haven't been any announcements about this just yet. Another piece of significant news this week has been Ethereum's Gitcoin network raising an 11.3 million round and actually being spun out of ConsenSys. Gitcoin's a fascinating project and company because what they do is they fund individuals to contribute to open source projects. One of the big challenges facing open source developers is how to sustain the funding for their projects, and this is something that I personally can relate to with Web3J, which is an open source library I've written, in that there's people will happily use these things, but it's hard to get funding for ongoing bug fixes and maintenance and so on. So Gitcoin actually provide a model for this, and they've been very successful with it, and it's the testament to this is who they've got behind this funding round as well, which includes a former Sequoia capital partner, but they've also got Naval Ravikant in there, as well as some other big names with the investment. The Linux Foundation too has also launched a blockchain-based platform for insurance. The Linux Foundation announced this platform called the Open Insurance Data Link platform, and the idea here is that it reduces the cost of insurance reporting and creates a standardized data repository using DLT. It's actually this OpenIDL platform is a joint initiative of the Linux Foundation and the American Association for Insurance Services, and it's making use of the Linux Foundation's open governance model, which means that the actual network is built on a number of different nodes run by multiple organizations, using a shared ledger there. And so this common ledger provides an industry utility platform for recording transactions and automating business processes. Having these bodies behind this initiative is certainly very powerful to help establish these kind of standardized consortia type blockchain networks. Lockheed Martin as well, they've also announced that they're adopting a blockchain platform for their supply chain management in Switzerland. So they've signed an agreement with a company called SyncFab, which has come out of Silicon Valley, which is a distributed manufacturing problem, to streamline their supply capabilities across the Swiss market. Within aerospace, actually being able to track the provenance of parts that are being used in supply chains for aeroplanes it's a really big and important problem, and so it's another really nice fit for the actual technology there. Specifically in this instance, the platform connects the original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs, to the Swiss members here to match the two up. In the DeFi market, it's been a big week, a number of big weeks really for Binance, with their Binance Smart Chain platform continually to grow with regards to supporting the DeFi landscape. The PancakeSwap, the Uniswap clone, the value locked in DeFi on that platform has actually gone up to 7.87 billion, which has more than eclipsed Uniswap, which was the original kind of DeFi platform there. Off the back of this increase in traction as well over the last few weeks, the Binance coin has really shot up in its market capitalization the last few weeks, with the price of Binance's coin jumping more than 16x increase just during this quarter alone. Off the back of this, then Binance had to execute their largest ever token burn, which is something that they actually do quarterly. They're also funding there as well for projects building on top of the platform. So the decentralized finance startup called Mound, which is known for its yield farming aggregator Pancake Bunny, has raised 1.6 million in seed funding to build out a range of DeFi use cases, including farming, lending and swapping. In the world of NFT, there's continued to be more and more activity here. This time the exchange operator NYSE getting in on the action, releasing collectible NFTs commemorating notable IPOs. So these NFTs, they each individually celebrate the first trades that happened on their platform for the IPOs of Spotify, Snowflake, Unity, DoorDash, Roblox and Coupang, which was the largest US IPO in 2021. Also had the well-known card maker Topps partnering up with the Major League Baseball to issue official NFTs. And these range of cards will actually vary in their degrees of rarity, from common to legendary, and there'll be like limited edition and platinum anniversary cards and so on. So given their how well established Topps is in the physical collectible card world, it'd be fun to see how they get on in as a slightly later entrant to the actual digital NFT market. But certainly there's still plenty of space for the market to expand. The United States Postal Service as well have also certified Case Mail for the first blockchain-generated e-postage platform. So they've actually, what this means is Case Mail provides a non-fungible token mail technology that can be used to pay for postage, and the US Postal Service have actually certified this. In the art world, the digital artists Pack, they had their first NFT sale on the Sotheby's that wrapped up this week, where Pack was selling these cubes, and a total of 17 million was actually made through this sale. But off the back of this, the artist Pack has actually launched a new token that can be obtained by burning NFTs. And so this platform is called burn.art, and the token is dubbed Ash. And so the idea is that someone can take their, however valuable it is, NFT and choose to actually burn it in return for the token. And of course, the inevitable question here is, what do people value more, the actual artwork or the token? So it's a fun innovation to see here. Binance has also popped up again in that they're working with the publisher of Vogue in Singapore to actually launch an NFT platform, which is expected in Q3 of 2021, which would allow users to mint, auction and trade NFTs. Edward Snowden as well. He's also created and sold an NFT for 5.4 million, which was to benefit the Freedom of the Press Foundation. Finally, the NFT startup Dapper Labs have announced they're doing another funding round. So they just closed a 305 million funding round at the end of March, but now they're planning to do another one, which once closed will actually give them a valuation of 7.5 billion. They've obviously got, their original plans for this year clearly weren't bold enough, and they've got no doubt even more ambitious plans for growth now. That brings us on to the metrics for this week. So we've seen the crypto market capitalization is actually down 4.5% from last week at 1.95 trillion. The assets locked in DeFi is up over 16% at 60.16 billion. And the NFT sales volume in the last 7 days has been over 52 billion, which is down 16.5% with an average price of just over $1,700. That's all we have for this week. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel. Links to all items discussed are available in the show notes and at our website, weekinblockchain.com. We also host a weekly Clubhouse room every Monday at 12 PM Eastern, 5 PM GMT if you'd like to discuss any of the items we've covered here. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.